Welcome to aminacademy.com. In astronomy, let us discuss about eclipses of sun and moon. A solar eclipse. It happens when the moon gets in the way of the sun's light and casts its shadow on Earth. That means during the day, the moon moves over the sun and it gets dark. Isn't it the strange that is get dark in the middle of the day? What is total solar eclipse? This total eclipse happens about every year and a half somewhere on Earth. A partial eclipse when the moon does not completely cover the sun happens at least twice a year somewhere on Earth. What is lunar eclipse? Lunar eclipses happens when Earth positions itself between the sun and the moon, casting a shadow across the lunar surface. They can only occur during a full moon and are a popular event for sky watchers worldwide, as they do not require any specialist equipment not necessary. Directly you can look. Now further detail we will explain. One of the coincidences of living on Earth at the present times is that the two most prominent astronomical objects, the Sun and the Moon, have nearly the same apparent size in the sky. That means although the Sun is about 400 times larger in diameter than the Moon, it is also about 400 times farther away. So both Sun and Moon have same angular size, that is half degree. As a result, the moon as seen from the earth can appear to cover the sun, producing one of the most impressive events in nature. This is solar eclipse. A solid object in the solar system casts a shadow by blocking the light of the sun and from a region behind it. The shadow in space becomes apparent whenever another object moves into it. In general, an eclipse occurs whenever any part of either Earth or the moon enters the shadow of the other. When the moon's shadow strikes Earth, people within that shadow see the sun, at least partially covered by the moon. That is, they witness a solar eclipse. When the moon passes into the shadow of Earth, people on the night side of the Earth see the moon darken in that what is called lunar eclipse. Let's look how this happens in more detail. A shadow of Earth and the moon consists of two parts. A cone where the shadow is darkest, called the umbra, and a lighter, more diffuse region of darkness called the penumbra. As you can imagine, the most spectacular eclipses occur when an object enters the umbra. Now, let us go detail about eclipses of the sun. The apparent or angular size of the both and sun and moon vary slightly from time to time as their distances from the earth vary. The figure shows like here longer distance, here the shorter distances. Here distance of the observing varying from point to point. Much of the time the moon looks slightly smaller than the sun and cannot cover it completely, even if the two are perfectly aligned. In this type of annular eclipses, there is a ring of light around the dark space of the moon. However, if an eclipse of the sun occurs when the moon is somewhat nearer than its average distances, the moon can completely hide the sun, producing a total solar eclipse. Another way to say is that total eclipse of the sun occurs at those times when the umbra of the moon's shadow reaches the surface of Earth. Here, look at this appearance of the total eclipse. Here, total solar eclipse, completely closed. Now, let us discuss about eclipses of the moon. A lunar eclipse occurs when the moon enters the shadow of the Earth. Earth's dark shadow is about 1.4 million kilometers long, so the moon's distance and average distance are 384,000 kilometers. It would cover about 4 full moons, unlike a solar eclipse, which is visible only in certain local areas on Earth. A lunar eclipse is visible to everyone who can see the moon. Because a lunar eclipse can be seen, weather permitting, from the entire night side of Earth, lunar eclipses are observed from more frequently from a given place on Earth than are solar eclipses. An eclipse of the moon is total only if the moon's path carries it through its umbra. If the moon does not enter the umbra completely, we have a partial eclipse of the moon. But because Earth is larger than the moon, its umbra is larger. So the lunar eclipses last longer than solar eclipses, as we will discuss below. Here. A lunar eclipse occurs when the moon enters the shadow of Earth. The geometry of the lunar eclipses as shown here. Earth's dark shadow is about 1.4 million kilometers long. So the moon's distance, an average of 384,000 kilometers, it could cover about 4 full moons. An eclipse of the moon is total only if the moon's path carries it through Earth's umbra. If the moon does not enter the umbra completely, so we have partial eclipse of the moon. But because Earth is larger than the moon, its umbra is larger. So that lunar eclipse lasts longer than solar eclipses. A lunar eclipse can take place only when the sun, earth and moon are in the line. The moon is opposite the sun, which means the moon will be in full phase before the eclipse, making the darkening even more dramatic about 20 minutes before the moon reaches the dark shadow. Even when total eclipsed, the moon is still faintly visible, usually appearing a dull coppery red. It illuminates that the eclipsed moon is sunlight that has been bent into Earth's shadow by passing through Earth's atmosphere. After totality, the moon moves out of the shadow and the sequence of events is reversed. How to observe a solar eclipse? A total eclipse of the sun is a spectacular sight and should not be missed. However, it is extremely dangerous to look directly at the sun. Even a brief exposure can damage your eye. Now, we'll summarize those things. A sun and moon have nearly the same angular size, that is half degree, already we discussed. A solar eclipse occurs when the moon moves between the sun and earth, casting its shadow on a part of Earth's surface. If the eclipse is total, the light from the bright disk of the sun is completely blocked and the solar atmosphere, that is the corona, comes into view. Solar eclipses take places rarely in any one location, but they are among the most spectacular sight in nature. A lunar eclipse takes place when the moon moves into the Earth's shadow. It is visible, weather permitting, from the entire night hemisphere of Earth. Lunar eclipse, an eclipse of the moon in which the moon moves into the shadow of Earth. Lunar eclipses can occur only at the time of full moon. Solar eclipse. A solar eclipse, that is an eclipse of the sun by the moon caused by the passage of the moon in front of the sun. Solar eclipses can occur only at the time of the new moon. So far we discussed about some more detail about solar eclipses and lunar eclipses and its causes. We have done. Please subscribe our YouTube channel.